Have you ever felt annoyed by someone, only to realize later that you're guilty of the exact same thing? That surge of irritation when someone interrupts you, then the uncomfortable realization, you do this in meetings too. This isn't random. It's what psychologist Carl Jung called projection, one of the sneaky ways your shadow self influences your life. Remember the last time you snapped at someone unexpectedly? Your conscious mind is hiding an entire personality from you. Traits, desires, and abilities you've rejected throughout your life. In this documentary, you'll discover how embracing these buried parts of yourself could unlock emotional freedom and true power in your relationships. The hidden truth behind your strongest reactions. Have you noticed how certain people trigger intense emotional reactions in you that seem completely out of proportion? That colleague whose small comment ruins your entire day, or that family member whose habits drive you to the edge of sanity. These reactions aren't random. They're meaningful signals your mind is sending, though not in the way you might think. When someone's behavior makes you unusually angry or upset, your conscious mind quickly justifies your reaction. They're being rude, you tell yourself. Anyone would be annoyed by this. They shouldn't act that way. Your rational brain constructs a neat explanation that places all responsibility on the other person's behavior. But what if these powerful reactions aren't about the other person at all? What if that surge of emotion, that disproportionate anger, that inexplicable irritation reveals something your brain is desperately trying to hide from you? These emotional triggers function as mirrors, reflecting back parts of yourself you've hidden from conscious awareness. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung discovered this psychological mirror effect during his own personal crisis in the 1930s. After his painful professional break with Sigmund Freud, Jung entered what he later called his confrontation with the unconscious, a dark period where he experienced vivid visions and faced the depths of his own psyche. Much like our moments of intense emotional reaction, Jung's crisis became a doorway to profound self-understanding. During this intense psychological journey, which he meticulously documented in his Red Book through writings and intricate paintings, Jung came to understand that our strongest emotional reactions often point directly to disowned parts of ourselves, what he would later term the shadow. This shadow self isn't born with us. It forms throughout childhood as we learn which behaviors and traits are acceptable versus unacceptable according to our family and society. When your parents frowned at your anger, you learned to suppress it. When teachers rewarded compliance and punished assertiveness, you buried those dominant impulses. When peers mocked vulnerability, you locked away your sensitive side. Piece by piece, you constructed an identity of acceptable traits while banishing others to the shadows. Unlike his mentor Freud, who focused primarily on repressed sexual desires, Jung recognized that we repress a much wider range of human qualities, including many positive ones. Your creativity might have been discouraged as impractical, your leadership qualities labeled as bossy, your analytical mind dismissed as overthinking. Even your talents and strengths can be pushed into shadow when they don't align with expectations placed upon you. This explains something profound about your emotional reactions. When you feel disproportionately annoyed by someone's behavior, your brain is often recognizing a quality you've disowned in yourself. The arrogance that infuriates you in your boss might be an ambition you've never allowed yourself to express. The neediness that irritates you in a friend might be the vulnerability you've buried. Your strongest emotional reactions to others are windows into your own hidden personality, qualities you've rejected, but that still influence your life unconsciously. This is why you can be instantly triggered by behaviors that others barely notice. Your friend might be completely unbothered by the same behavior that sends you into an emotional tailspin because your shadow is uniquely yours, shaped by your personal history and specific repressions. Think about someone who consistently triggers you. What quality in them provokes your strongest reaction. Now comes the uncomfortable question. How might this very quality exist within you, perhaps in a form you've never acknowledged? This isn't about blaming yourself for others' behavior. It's about recognizing that your emotional reactions contain valuable information about your complete self. Jung didn't view the shadow as something to be eliminated, but rather as essential parts of ourselves waiting to be reclaimed. Each trigger becomes an invitation to self-discovery chance to recognize aspects of your personality that have been operating below the surface, influencing your feelings and behaviors in ways you've never fully understood. The shadow self, your brain's hidden operating system. Those shadow elements Jung uncovered don't simply sit dormant within us. Think of your psyche as a sophisticated computer with dual processors. Beneath your conscious awareness runs a complete secondary operating system, one you never consciously installed, yet determines much of your life's trajectory. The first processor, your conscious mind, handles what you deliberately think about and recognize as you. Yet this represents only a small fraction of your complete psychological makeup. Second, your shadow operates continuously in the background, storing everything your conscious self has rejected as not me throughout your lifetime. What Jung discovered through his own psychological explorations reveals something profound. While you navigate daily life identifying with your conscious self, an entire parallel personality quietly influences your decisions, relationships, and opportunities from the shadows. Under unexpected stress, this secondary system might suddenly reveal itself, perhaps as an unexpectedly brilliant creative solution or a surprisingly assertive response that seems to come from nowhere. This shadow system isn't merely a collection of negative traits. Within this hidden repository exist extraordinary untapped talents and creative impulses. These are aspects that may have been discouraged by family members, educational institutions, or cultural expectations. Parts of yourself you learn to suppress because they didn't conform to what others wanted from you. Your shadow develops as a natural counterpart to what Jung termed the persona, that carefully constructed social mask we present to gain approval and acceptance. The professional who projects constant competence might shadow store their vulnerability and need support. Every quality embraced consciously sends its complement into shadow. This hidden operating system exists within what Jung called the personal unconscious. Unlike his concept of the collective unconscious, with its universal archetypes shared by all humanity, your personal unconscious contains material unique to your individual life experience. Memories, impressions, and qualities that were once conscious, but have been forgotten or actively repressed. When qualities remain in shadow for extended periods, something remarkable happens. The energy required to keep these aspects repressed accumulates significantly. Research into Jung's theories reveals that maintaining this psychological separation demands enormous mental resources, which explains why acknowledging these hidden elements often unleashes a surprising surge of vitality and creative energy previously inaccessible. Dreams provide fascinating glimpses into this shadow landscape. Jung observed that figures appearing in dreams often manifest as the same gender as the dreamer, potentially representing these repressed personality aspects. These dream characters sometimes behave in ways entirely contrary to your waking personality, displaying assertiveness if you're typically accommodating, or vulnerability if you present as perpetually strong. The longer these shadow elements remain unacknowledged, the more powerful their influence becomes. This profound dynamic inspired Jung's famous observation: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. What appears as external bad luck might be your shadow orchestrating situations that force engagement with these disowned aspects of yourself. Remember that colleague whose confidence irritates you beyond reason. They may be activating your shadow-stored confidence that lies dormant. The friend whose emotional vulnerability makes you uncomfortable might be reflecting qualities you've banished to your own shadow. These reactions aren't random, but precise indicators pointing to your shadow content, messages from that secondary operating system we discussed earlier. Unlike other psychological theories that pathologize the unconscious, Jung viewed the shadow not as something to eliminate, but as essential parts of ourselves waiting to be reclaimed. The shadow contains not just our weaknesses and uncomfortable truths, but also normal instincts, realistic insights, creative impulses, and leadership capacities that have been suppressed through socialization. The relationship mirror. How your shadow creates patterns. Your shadow doesn't operate in isolation. It orchestrates entire dramas in the theater of your relationships. Ever wonder why certain people trigger you instantly while others remain unfazed by the same behavior? Or why, despite your best intentions, do you keep finding yourself in an eerily similar dynamic relationship with different partners? These patterns aren't coincidental. Your unconscious mind is methodically creating situations where you can encounter the very parts of yourself you've refused to acknowledge. Relationships, especially romantic ones, function as mirrors reflecting the aspects of your personality you've banished from conscious awareness. Think about someone who consistently irritates you, perhaps a colleague whose constant need for validation triggers a visceral disgust in you. This reaction might reveal that you were conditioned to believe seeking recognition was selfish, forcing you to bury your own natural desire for validation. Their behavior isn't just annoying, it's reflecting a disowned part of yourself back to you. Jung called this mechanism projection. When we encounter qualities in others that we've disowned within ourselves, we project intense emotional energy onto them. Your psyche convincingly declares that problematic quality exists in them, not in me. This allows you to maintain the illusion that you're free from these traits while simultaneously being drawn to them with remarkable consistency. Projection operates beyond conscious awareness. You become convinced your judgment about someone is objective reality rather than a reflection of your hidden material. The qualities that most enrage you in others often mirror what you've most strongly rejected in yourself. During analysis sessions, Jung observed how patients projected their shadow material onto him, creating powerful emotional reactions that revealed their disowned qualities, providing valuable windows into each person's shadow. These relationship dynamics emerge through what Jung termed complexes, concentrated nodes of emotional energy in your unconscious that function like psychological magnets, drawing you toward people who activate your shadow material with remarkable precision. This explains why you might repeatedly find yourself attracted to partners with similar problematic behaviors, despite consciously wanting something different. Consider the person who consciously desires a reliable partner, but repeatedly falls for emotionally unavailable types. Their shadow may contain disowned qualities of independence or emotional withholding that they're unconsciously seeking to reconnect with. The shadow orchestrates these encounters not as punishment, but as opportunities for wholeness. As we recognize these patterns, our relationship dynamics transform from frustrating cycles into opportunities for profound inner growth. Each difficult relationship offers a chance to recognize and reclaim parts of yourself that have been living in the dark, which explains why logical relationship advice often fails to break emotional patterns. No amount of rational understanding can overcome these unconscious forces because they operate beyond the reach of your thinking mind. The true power comes in recognizing that your recurring relationship patterns are internal projections made externally. When you judge someone harshly for being too aggressive, you're often encountering your own repressed assertiveness that never found healthy expression. This doesn't mean tolerating harmful behavior. It means developing discernment between genuine external threats and your own shadow projections. By withdrawing these projections and claiming them as parts of yourself, you develop more authentic relationships based on reality rather than unconscious fantasy. The dark side of denial, when your shadow takes control. Have you ever found yourself doing or saying something so unlike you that it felt as if someone else had momentarily taken control? Jung discovered that the qualities we most adamantly reject don't simply disappear. They gather strength unconsciously until they erupt with a force that can shatter your carefully constructed self-image in seconds. Your nighttime dreams reveal this hidden reality. During sleep, your shadow emerges through symbolic figures, monsters, demons, dragons, or shadowy characters that match your gender. These dream figures embody the qualities you've deemed unacceptable, now demanding attention through the direct portal dreams provide to your unconscious mind. Your shadow extends beyond dreams into waking life. Those moments when you snap at someone you love, sabotage your own success, or act contrary to your normal personality signal, your shadow breaking through denial walls. Jung observed that ignored shadow contents manifest sudden mood shifts, emotional outbursts, or behaviors foreign to your sense of self. You might experience gloomy moods, develop physical symptoms, or find yourself involved in accidents orchestrated by your unconscious mind. The shadow becomes especially powerful during vulnerability. When exhausted, stressed, or intoxicated, your conscious defenses weaken. Jung called these moments shadow possession, when the ego becomes overwhelmed by unconscious contents building pressure beneath the surface. This explains those shocking instances when you act completely out of character, leaving everyone wondering, where did that come from? Ironically, people most vulnerable to shadow eruptions often appear most controlled and morally rigid. Jung noted that individuals maintaining the strictest behavioral standards experience the most dramatic falls. The minister caught in scandal, the anti-corruption politician accepting bribes, the judgmental friend secretly engaging in condemned behaviors. These aren't simple hypocrisy. They demonstrate how a shadow grows stronger in proportion to the force used to repress it. This dynamic operates collectively as well as individually. Jung's observations of pre-West Germany revealed how an entire society's repressed aggression could erupt catastrophically on the world stage. The shadow, whether personal or collective, demands expression one way or another. The only question is whether that expression comes through conscious integration or unconscious eruption. Consider those moments when you felt completely taken over by an emotion or impulse you didn't recognize as your own. Perhaps you've experienced rage so intensely it scared you, jealousy that possessed your entire being, or desires contradicting everything you thought you valued. These experiences aren't evidence of weakness or moral failure. They're revealing glimpses of your complete psychological reality, breaking through the artificial boundaries of your constructed, acceptable self. Your shadow announces itself most dramatically in relationships. Those times when you've overreacted to someone's minor offense, found yourself inexplicably drawn to someone representing everything you oppose, or sabotaged relationships just as they became meaningful. All shadow moments. The qualities triggering your strongest judgments in others are precisely those your shadow holds most powerfully. What makes shadow eruptions so disorienting is that they feel like invasions from outside rather than expressions from within. You might wonder, that wasn't me, I would never do that. But Jung's insight reveals the uncomfortable truth. These eruptions are more authentically you than many of your conscious behaviors. They represent parts of your complete personality, demanding acknowledgement after being denied expression through acceptable channels. Shadow integration, the path to authentic power. What if the very traits you fear are the keys to your true potential? Those parts of yourself that feel most frightening to acknowledge might hold the key to your greatest strength. Jung called this paradoxical journey individuation. A process was facing what you've hidden from yourself, transforms internal conflict into a source of genuine power that others can sense, but few truly understand. Jung's approach revolutionized psychology because he saw shadow work as integration rather than elimination. He recognized that bringing disowned aspects into conscious awareness allows them to serve rather than sabotage you. This lifelong process focuses on becoming your authentic self by reconciling the elements of your personality that have been waging war beneath your conscious awareness, like bringing opposing armies to a peace table rather than trying to banish one side entirely. Individuation requires genuine moral effort and practical work. When you begin shadow integration, you're committing to recognize that the dark aspects of your personality exist within you. They're real, present parts of who you are, not theoretical concepts to analyze from a distance. This recognition often triggers difficult emotions: fear when facing your capacity for destruction, disgust when acknowledging impulses you've denied, remorse and guilt before these transforms into something beautiful, genuine compassion for yourself and others. The transformative power of this work comes from finding healthy expressions for shadow energies. Consider how a critical inner voice that habitually judges others might contain valuable discernment. When integrated, this critical energy becomes wisdom that serves relationships rather than destroys them. Or how selfishness you've rejected might contain the healthy boundary setting you've never allowed yourself to practice. Jung developed several practical approaches for this integration. Dreams reveal shadow content in symbolic form when we're not defending against it. In active imagination, you enter a meditative state to dialogue with different aspects of yourself, creating a bridge between conscious awareness and shadow elements. Creative expression through art, writing, or movement can bypass psychological defenses, allowing shadow material to emerge in ways your conscious mind might otherwise censor. The path begins with intentional self-observation. When you find yourself disproportionately triggered by someone's behavior, pause instead of reacting. Ask yourself, what might this intensity reveal about what I'm not seeing in myself? These moments of triggered intensity are almost always shadow material breaking through. This work requires courage to face uncomfortable questions. Which qualities in others consistently provoke your strongest reactions? How might these same qualities exist within you, waiting for acknowledgement? When do you find yourself declaring, "I would never do that"? And what might this rigid boundary be protecting you from seeing? The psychological benefits are substantial. Enhanced self-awareness develops as previously invisible aspects become visible. Psychological resilience grows as you reclaim energy previously spent maintaining internal divisions. Authenticity emerges naturally when you're no longer performing to keep parts hidden, and emotional regulation improves as you develop relationship with, rather than reaction to triggering material. Modern therapeutic approaches like internal family systems therapy have expanded Jung's principles, offering structured frameworks for engaging with shadow aspects while maintaining his core insight. Healing comes from integration, not elimination, transforming internal civil war into a functioning inner community. When you embrace your shadow, something truly remarkable happens. This integration releases psychological energy that's been trapped in repression. As you turn toward disowned aspects with courage and compassion, they transform from sources of unconscious sabotage into the wellspring of creativity and authentic power. The journey requires genuine moral effort, but the alternative is living at the mercy of unconscious forces. By engaging with these hidden parts, you become more whole, more balanced, and more genuinely yourself, just as we saw with the examples of projection and emotional reactivity earlier. Remember, when someone triggers an intense reaction in you, Pause and recognize this gift, a glimpse into your hidden interior. Ask, what might this reveal about parts of myself I've been unwilling to see? This question opens the doorway to an authentic and empowered you, where shadow no longer lurks but contributes its vital energy to your wholeness. See you in the next video.